Hi, this is Andy Heglund from the University of Nevada, Reno. I've got a couple of little helpful hints for the audition etude for Allstate this year, which is Anthony Cirone, Portraits in Rhythm number 6. So anyways, first of all, get a drum that sounds decent. Make sure you can hear really soft when you play soft, that you get some good definition and some snare sound at the soft level, and then when you play louder on it, the drum doesn't choke but has some body. I like to use a little extra muffling with Kleenex and maybe even some moon gel. Now the tempo of this piece is pretty slow, 63. So at that tempo, there it is, you can do rolls, triplet bass rolls or 30-second bass rolls, 30-second note primary stroke. So at the triplet bass, and then the 30-second note bass. And I actually use both of those speeds during this piece, and I'll kind of show you how I do that. Now, if you use this, when you use the slower roll speed, you have to make sure that your rolls are what we call an open buzz, and that's something that's really good to practice. Orchestral players talk about this, where you get 3 bounces on each. Roll kind of overlaps. Players that play too crushed a buzz roll will end up with, you really hear the individual strokes. Now the more open buzz, you get a nice smooth sound. Now the way I use both rolls is I have the dynamics kind of help me determine when to use it. So the first measure, the half note roll, just use a triplet bass roll, nice relaxed mezzo forte roll. Then in the next measure, it starts out with an accent on it, and then it kind of decrescendos. So I like to use the 30-second note bass roll there and then go into the triplets, so you get a nice decrescendo. Another thing that's worth pointing out too is those two rolls, you attack them differently. A lot of players will make the mistake of always accenting a roll. Well, sometimes rolls are accent, sometimes they're not. So in the first measure, you want to hit a roll where you just come in with sound, a nice full sound. In the second measure, you come in actually with an accent on the roll. So you kind of pop the roll at the beginning. Now the third measure of this line, you have a couple decrescendo rolls, and you can do the same thing here. You can use the 30-second note roll into the triplet roll. You get a nice decrescendo. All right, let's see. Next line has, in the last part of the line, some notes that you can play with one hand to help make it extra even. Here's that line, last measure of the second line. So playing it with one hand is always good when you can, when it's slow enough. Then you get a more even sound. Okay, let's see, the next measure, have some 5-stroke rolls on those first measure there. I'll play a little of that first measure. And then this next measure, this is another chance where you can use the roll speeds. So I like to start the half note rolls in line number 3 with the triplet bass, and then as it gets louder, crescendos, go to the 30-second bass and then back down, and that works out really nicely. Here's that second and third measure of the third line. So that works pretty well when you do that. The next line, which would be the fourth line, I like to do use the drum on this one. So I'll play in the middle for the first part. So you get the real kind of two extremes. And I think that really works well because it's pianissimo in the second half of that line. You can get a slightly lighter sound by moving to the edge. Going down a little bit further, let's see. You've got a similar line below that where you can use the middle and the edge. I think the fourth line from the bottom is worth talking about. That's a good line to use. Stay in the middle and play your dynamics. There's a temptation to want to use the drum on that. And I think, and when I say use the drum, I mean going in and out from the edge. If you can do that one in one spot and make the dynamic shape, I think it's more effective because the quality of the sound stays the same. So here's that fourth line from the bottom. So that works for the dynamic shape. I think one other thing that I'll mention is, well, you have a second line from the bottom, you have a return of the figure that you had at the very beginning of the piece. So you want to try to play that with the same vibe and feel that you did when you started the piece. I've recorded myself playing this a few times, and when I got to that measure, there was one time where it was like, that sounds nothing like the first two measures. I want to make that so that the listener really hears that theme come back again. One other thing on the last line, last measure, you have some wedge accents on the last few notes, and you need to make those different. Everything is fortissimo there. How can you make that slightly different? And I do it with my grip. When I'm playing the first part, I'm using a nice, maybe more legato, full stroke on those 30-second notes, and then when I get to the last measure, I just bear down a little bit, get a little weight of the arm in there, and it gives it that fuller sound. So hopefully some of these tips helped you out. Good luck on your All-State audition.